Hey, Katie. I have the clue of the tapping heels. We are on chapter 7, The Runaway. Can't you tell me now what you found out? Nancy asked her father. He laughed.
I think matters should be kept secret here for the present. Anyway, I'd rather not discuss it on the phone. Here's more news. The Fanes and Marvins want Bess and George to come home. There's a special family party being held out of town tonight that they're to attend.
Nancy was a bit alarmed about leaving Miss Carter and Mrs. Beeling alone. Apparently Mr. Drew guessed her thought.
I know you don't want to have to desert the Amity Place mystery, he said, so I have persuaded Hannah to stay with Miss Carter while you girls have to be away. She'll take a taxi out there.
Oh, Dad, you think of everything, Nancy said. Mr. Drew told her a client was waiting and he would have to say goodbye.
I'll see you later.
Nancy gave his message to Bess and George. Mrs. Beeling was delighted to hear that her friend Hannah Gruen was coming to spend a little time at Miss Carter's. She's such a capable person to have around. She certainly is, Nancy agreed. Bess and George had exchanged guilty glances. Both admitted they had completely forgotten about the family party. George said, Nancy, you always pick up such fascinating mysteries. You make us forget our duties to our aunts and uncles and cousins. Nancy chuckled. Sorry, girls. Maybe you can pick up a clue at the party. Ask your relatives if they ever knew or heard of people named Wooten who used to live in Berryville. Will do, George promised. The three girls went back to the basement and opened the panel to the secret room. Nancy unlocked the wall cabinet and took out the diary. Then she relocked the cupboard, and the panel was closed again. Since Bess and George did not know when they would be able to return, they decided to pack all their clothes and take them home. I'd enjoy a change of slacks and blouses anyway, said Bess. The cousins had just finished packing when Bess called out, I heard a car door slam. Perhaps it's Mrs. Gruen arriving. The bell rang, and Nancy hurried to the front door. Hannah Gruen stood there, a broad smile on her face. Nancy, she said, this is the first time I've ever tried to substitute for you in solving a mystery. As Nancy gave the housekeeper a hug, she said, who knows, maybe you'll solve it while I'm gone. Not much likelihood of that, Hannah replied, shaking her head. Nancy took Mrs. Gruen's bag and led the way up the stairs to the second floor. Mrs. Beeling greeted her old friend affectionately. Then Hannah was taken to meet Miss Carter. I'm sorry you've been having so much trouble, the Drews' housekeeper told her. The actress smiled. It's said that bad luck comes in threes. I've had mine, first a broken leg, then a mysterious tapper, and finally stolen cats. Mrs. Gruen remarked that with all the locks in the house changed, she did not see how anyone could get inside. And I believe the person who came to steal your Persians the second time got a good scare. I doubt he'll be back. Hannah's assurances made Miss Carter feel better at once. Soon the three women were engaged in a lively conversation. Nancy, Bess, and George left quietly. When are you going to get your own car back? George asked Nancy as they rode off in Ned's convertible. I don't know. Ned's coming to take me to the rehearsal. When the girls reached Bess's home, Nancy asked the cousins to call her when they were ready to return to Miss Carter's. She dropped George at the Fane house, and a few minutes later pulled into her own driveway. As she unlocked the kitchen door, the place seemed very different. For an instant, Nancy wondered why, then realized she missed the fragrant scent of cooking food. There was always a lingering aroma of some special concoction of Hannah's in the air. It's just not the same without her here, Nancy thought wistfully. Within a few minutes, Mr. Drew drove in. While Nancy was preparing dinner from a menu Hannah had left, the lawyer related what he had found out about the Wontons.
Through a stroke of luck, I got information from a lawyer friend of mine who is an attorney for the Beverly, a private hospital. It takes boys and young men who are having mental problems of one sort or another. One of their patients was named Gus Wooten. At the time his parents put him in there, they were living in Berryville. I haven't found out anything yet as to where Mr. and Mrs. William Wooten went after they sold their house.
Nancy was excited. "Is this Gus Woonton well enough to be interviewed?" she asked. Mr. Drew's answer was a surprise.
Gus Woonton ran away from the Beverly several weeks ago, and there hasn't been any trace of him since that time.
"Oh!" Nancy exclaimed. She told her father of her suspicion that the man using the secret bedroom and bath in the basement of Miss Carter's house might be Gus Woonton. "And he might be the tapper," she added.
You could be right, Nancy. That pudgy man who followed you and who attacked Ned at the school fits the description of the Gus Woonton who ran away. He had a penchant for running away since the time he was a little boy."
"You mean running away from home?" Nancy asked. Her father nodded.
"Yes, and also from school and camp, and at times from hotels when the family was on a trip. When Gus reached his late teens, he became worse, so his parents finally took him to the Beverly."
"What about the guardians?" Nancy asked.
"There was no mention of them, but the Beverly's lawyer promised to call me if he finds out anything more about the William Woontons."
"And there are no clues as to where Gus was running to at this time?" Nancy queried.
"Not one, and I think your guess is as good as anyone else's," her father remarked. "Tonight we'll have the police keep an even closer watch on Miss Carter's house. Since all the locks in the entrance doors have been changed, the tapper won't be able to get inside. The officers can close in quickly and grab him if he comes to the house."
As Nancy continued preparing the meal, she and her father speculated about whether or not Gus Woonton lived in the house regularly or just slept there once in a while. And was he the tapper? If so, why was he tapping? Was he just acting spooky to annoy the people in the house, hoping to get them out? Or was there a more sinister motive behind his actions? Just as dinner was ready, the bell rang. Ned Nickerson had arrived. At once, he asked Nancy if she had solved the mystery. "It's not solved, but we have some good clues," she replied, and briefed him on the latest developments.
"Sounds like progress, all right,"
he commented. After the meal was over and the kitchen had been tidied, Nancy and Ned had to hurry to make the rehearsal on time. As they walked into the school a few minutes later, he said, "Tonight, instead of sitting in the auditorium, I think I'll play detective and walk around the corridors and keep a lookout for that pudgy fellow." They separated, and Nancy went up to the stage. Ned made sure that the front door was securely locked, as well as all the side entrances. On one of his trips into the corridor back of the stage, he thought he smelled smoke.
"It seems to be coming from under the stage,"
Ned decided, and opened the door to a stairway. He ran down the steps. A thin wisp of smoke was coming from the prop room next to the dressing rooms. A fire extinguisher hung on the wall. He grabbed it. Turning the heavy spray can over, he sent a volume of foam onto a pile of clothes which were on fire in the center of the floor.
"I hope this does it,"
he thought. In the meantime, Nancy found herself with a 15-minute recess from the rehearsal. "I'll see if Ned has learned anything," she told herself, and went out into the corridor back of the stage. As she neared the doorway to the basement, Nancy smelled smoke. She hurried down the stairway and saw Ned busy with the extinguisher.
"Oh, Nancy, I'm glad you've come. I'm afraid this is too much of a blaze for me to put out alone."
Nancy agreed. "I'd better call the fire department right away."
"Good idea,"
Ned replied. She dashed up the stairway and turned the knob on the door, which had closed. It was locked. Frantically, Nancy knocked on the door, but she had little hope that anyone would hear her. The orchestra was playing loudly. Nevertheless, she thumped until her knuckles hurt. Still, no one came to open the door. That's the end of chapter 7. We'll have to find out what happened.